happens when we die? This has been the age-old question that all cultures have tried to answer. The Egyptian mummification process is one of those examples on what an ancient culture believed on what happened to them when they died. I have done a lot of research on mummification, and I've had a couple of classes that cover the ancient cultures. And today, I want to talk about how all cultures really have their own ideas on what happens after you die. And we can all learn from the history of ancient Egyptian society because they were one of the most sophisticated and one of the most longest lasting in ancient times. So I'm going to inform you on the embalming process of ancient Egypt and the reasons why they believed in these processes. Well, I'm going to go over the mummification process, the wrapping of the body, and then the afterlife. So in the mummification process, it's considered a technical and a ritual process. Technical because it requires an embalmer, someone who's a professional at it. They call that person a Hairy Seshta, and he represents the jackal god Anubis. You'll often see him in the jackal, but I don't have one up here. And he oversees the mummification process. And it's ritualistic because it's a recreation of the mummification of the god Osiris, and he is the ruler of the underworld, the realm of the dead. So the first thing that happens when a person is deceased is they're taken to what they call an abu, and that's the process of purification. They wash the body with palm wine, and then they rinse it off with water from the Nile River. And the reason why they use water from the Nile is because it's believed that that is life itself. They revolved around the Nile River. The second thing is they remove the liver, the lungs, the stomach, and the intestines, and they leave the heart in there because they believe that the heart was the center of all intelligence and of feelings. Then they insert a hook through the nose, right here, and take out the brain. Ancient Egyptians believed that the brain was absolutely useless, so they had no need for it in the afterlife. The third thing is the body and the organs that are taken out are put in what they call natron. It's a sea salt and nature's own version of baking soda, so it helps with the smell. And then the body's left there for 40 days. It dries out. After 40 days, they once again wash the body with water from the Nile River, and then they cover it with oils to keep the skin elastic, as you can see right here. The dehydrated organs were put into what they call canopic jars, which are these right here. These represent the 4 sons of Horus. After a while after developing the process, they began to put the organs, the dried organs, back into the body instead. The body's then packed with dry material, sawdust, leaves, and any of the linens that they use in this process because they want to keep everything with the body that was taken from the body with the body. And the body then, once again, is covered in oils. And the belief of mummification comes from the belief that they have what they call a ka, which is your soul. And if your ka can't identify you after you're dead, then your soul is pretty much lost in eternity. Next is the wrapping of the body. The first thing to be wrapped is the head and the neck, and then the fingers and the toes and the legs and the arms are each individually wrapped. And then as they're wrapping the body, they place amulets in there that are supposed to help them on their journey to the afterlife. A priest will then read spells from the scroll of the dead, and of the book of the dead, and as they're wrapping them up, they'll bind the arms and together, and then they'll put the scroll of the dead in between the hand and the mummy. The mummy's then wrapped again, and after they wrap it again, they will paint a picture of the god Osiris on it, and then they wrap it one more time, and they'll put linen bindings around it to keep the warm cloth on. Okay, so then after it's wrapped, they perform the ritual of the opening of the mouth, because they believe in the afterlife that in order for you to be able to drink and eat, because the body got rigor mortis, they couldn't really open, so they were afraid that that person wouldn't be able to eat or drink in the next life. So that's why they performed that ritual. The mummy is then put into a coffin and then placed into one other coffin. And then those 2 coffins and the body are then placed into a sarcophagus. I found a BBC article that talks about mummies found from around the world, and it states, Covered in a range of protective amulets and placed
2
in
minutes.
its coffin, elaborate funeral ceremonies designed to reactivate the soul within the mummy were accompanied by the words, "You will live again forever. Behold, you are young again forever." Before the mummy was buried with generous supplies of food, drink, and everything the soul of the deceased would need for a comfortable afterlife. Next we come to the afterlife. This is what they call the weighing of the hearts. The person will come into the afterlife and tell these 14 judges about his good deeds in life. They hold what they call the Ankh, which is the key to life. Here, Anubis will lead them to the scale, where Ma'at, you can't really see her, but she's right here, and she's also pictured as a feather. They will weigh your heart against the feather of truth. And if your feather balances out with the feather of truth, you're granted eternal life in the afterlife. If it weighs more than the feather, that means that your sins outweigh your virtues. And then your soul is doomed to oblivion for all eternity. And then this is Amit. He's the one that eats the heart if you're not going to pass on to the afterlife. And this is Thoth. He writes down the judgment, and then they take him to Osiris, and he then grants you the afterlife. Encarta states on an article about mummies that the Egyptians believed that the soul of the deceased dwelled among the gods, but did not lose full contact with the land of the living. One aspect of the soul, which Egyptians represented as the human-headed bird called the Ba, could leave the dark tomb. So too the living could call upon their deceased relatives, most often by letters that left in the tomb, imploring them for help in curing illnesses, sit in lawsuits, or promoting fertility. So in summation, I have gone over the mummification process, the wrapping of the body, and about the afterlife that they believed in. It is always important that we understand our history. We can always learn from things that have happened in the past and where we've come from. I hope now that you have a better understanding of the embalming process and of why the Egyptians believed in the process and why they did what they did. So the next time that you read an article or see something on the news about an uncovered mummy, you'll be able to recall the process and why they're preserved for us to analyze today and the reasons why they did what they did.